Is 7:30, and I called this meeting in order. This is the June 2nd meeting of 2025 for Green Tree Borough Council. Can we please have a moment of we will have our moment of silence in the pledge. As we all know, June is Pride Month, where we celebrate the achievements and honor the work of our LGBTQIA+ community members across our nation. Here in Pennsylvania, we have 63 openly queer people serving in elected positions. But it is not just our elected officials who do the work for our queer community. We have business owners, volunteers, parents, teachers, many who often face adversity, threats of violence, actual violence, and more for being who they are. So for this, for our moment of reflection tonight, I would like everyone to think about the people in our lives and in our community who advocate for, fight for, and live their lives in our community as members of the queer community as well. In addition, may we consider thinking about ensuring their safety and making sure Green Tree is a welcome community for all. So if we can please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Demi?
Here.
Ms. Houts?
Here.
Mr. Panza?
Here.
Mr. Ray?
Here.
Ms. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. Tintori?
Present.
Ms. Barron?
Here.
Mayor Schenk?
Present.
So we do have a little bit of a minor change to our agenda. If you look in our public facilities, parks and equipment, number 3 on that list was a conditional use application. We had the hearing for that conditional use at 7 o'clock. We are going to move that up to vote now. There was a hearing, there was a chance for public comment, and we are going to take it to vote now in best interest of the folks who came here tonight and gave that presentation.
All right, conditional use application 01-2025, 875 Green Tree Road, PWC Pitt LLC, and Allegheny County applicant. I move we approve the conditional use application 01-2025 submitted by PWC Pitt LLC and County of Allegheny for the property located at 875 Green Tree Road, Pittsburgh, PA 15220, to allow a portion of the property to be used for office visit space, subject to the following conditions: that the applicants obtain borough approval prior to any future expansion of the portion of the property to be used for office visit space.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Can we please have the roll call vote?
Ms. Schwartz?
Yes.
Miss-
We have one, yeah.
Ms. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Tintori?
Yes.
Ms. Demi?
Yes.
Ms. Houts?
Yes.
Mr. Panza?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Ms. Barron?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will provide with a written copy of with the next 30 days.
It's really appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we move on to the approval of minutes for May 5th. Oh, public hearing, sorry.
Yes.
And now I'm all screwed up because we went all over the place. I've got chicken scratch on my agenda.
Good stuff.
It is, so, yeah, we'll have our public hearing.
All right, thank you. This is now our second public hearing on the evening. Good evening, everyone. Jake Leland, Borough Solicitor. This is a public hearing on proposed ordinance number 1909, which would adopt the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code as the model property maintenance code and housing code for the Borough of Green Tree. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to sections 505 and 506 of the Borough of Green Tree Charter, which require a public hearing on an ordinance seeking to adopt a code of technical regulations such as the International Property Maintenance Code. I will note this hearing was duly advertised in accordance with section 506 of the charter. With us tonight is Christopher House, Building Inspector and Zoning Officer for the Borough of Green Tree. Mr. House will discuss the proposed ordinance, and following Mr. House's presentation, council will entertain comments from the public, specifically relating to ordinance number 1909. There will still be a public comment section later on for all other borough business matters. And then once public comment has concluded, council can deliberate on the proposed ordinance. And upon the conclusion of the deliberation, the public hearing will be closed and we will proceed to the regular business meeting. And during that meeting, council will vote on whether to adopt the proposed ordinance. So at this time, I will gladly turn it over to Christopher House. Sure.
Good evening, everyone, council, mayor. What you have before you is the modern, matching international property maintenance code. We've adopted, all other relevant international family codes. And this, of course, will coalesce those with this and update codes, I think, that go as far back as 1935. So, this is a specific nationally recognized code that pretty much addresses the minimum standard for all provisions on property. The advice, even the suggest council approve this. We will enforce accordingly. Questions?
Mr. House, can you just explain a little more about what the International Property Maintenance Code entails, what it covers, what benefits it offers to the Borough of Green Tree?
Sure. We lack sufficient coverage in terms of ordinance regulations, and a couple examples would be the interior environment of an existing house. There's nothing to govern that in our ordinance provisions now. It covers what we already have and will replace things like high grass and trash on our property. As well, it has built-in mandates for how to enforce properly with regard to due process, constitutional due process. So those are very specific. I would offer that most courts are familiar with this line of process. Well, I've been using it for several years and hasn't failed me yet. So, lastly, I think there are a couple of structures in Green Tree, one that Jake and I will be holding a public hearing on for condemnation. And it is far more specific than what we already have. Just better overall for achieving not only maintenance compliance for the property owner, but legal compliance on our end too.
So the International Code Council, that's an organization that publishes and recommends this property maintenance code. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're the writers of the building code.
Yeah, and there's hundreds of municipalities that have adopted at least portions of this code.
Well, I haven't counted, I would say that's probably fair to say.
And this provides you with technical standards. Our code now uses such words as dangerous, but now you have technical standards that you can point to a specific standard instead of using their judgment to determine what's dangerous.
That's correct. That's a good question. Thank you. So our current ordinance relies on me, basically, in my opinion, adjudicating that things are dangerous, and that is undesirable for a couple of reasons. You don't want to be in a courtroom based solely on opinion from a municipal employee. Those are not that said employee would be wrong, but they're easier to challenge and it takes longer. This stuff is built right into the code.
2 more points. in your memo, you talk about the boarding standard. This has a boarding standard. You briefly describe the boarding standard.
Yes, so that was a development, I think, in maybe the 2018 version. And it's a very necessary one. So as we all know, many towns in America have vacant buildings. And they would just slap plywood up, and in several months, it's a pretty visible eyesore. So the standards are pretty stringent. It has to fit, has to have backer board, has to be painted to match. And I personally would attest to its effectiveness.
When you board up a property, it has to be properly and nicely done.
Yes,
One last area here, it indicates that we're gonna need an appeals board of 3 people to, for due process in case someone wants to appeal your decision. You know how we're gonna go about, establishing that appeals board of 3 members?
I would say, do we send out letters now, or if we, whatever way we advertise now to see what interest within the borough, I would recommend.
I would suggest that we fill those vacancies in a fashion that's similar to how we fill all boards positions.
You'll notice I did not, this was brought before the planning commission. We did not recommend, or they did not recommend the standard for the appeals board. So there are 2 sets in that ordinance. In the appendix B, which we did not move to adopt or recommend to adopt, it's very, very stringent for the level of the appeals board. And really, I don't think it's necessary for the borough. There's a simpler version of the administration chapter. And the appendix would be for probably a larger city that sees many appeals over things like commercial buildings on a regular frequency.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So as the International Code Council updates the code, do we have to adopt the updated code?
No,
So what we're voting on is the International Property Maintenance Code, and if they revise it, then we continue to use the IMPCs.
Jake, we can,
That's here, so. The borough would adopt a specific version, so the one before you tonight is the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code. So if they come out with the 2026 IPMC, the borough does not automatically adopt that. Borough council can elect to, but you actually stay with the one that you specifically select. There's not much difference between the ones. But, you know, for instance, I know there are municipalities that are still relying on the 2012 version. And they've had no issues with using it 13 years later.
And I just noticed this, so I apologize, but it looks like they have a 2024 and a 2023. Do you know that there's substantial differences that according to their website, it looks like there might be substantial differences between,
there's a
2024.
Yeah, every 3 years it automatically updates.
So should we be adopting the 2024?
No, I specifically did not want to choose that one because it does not allow you the simpler option for the appeals board. In the 2024 version, you have to, it's far more stringent than the appeal processes. Not workable, in my opinion.
Are there other technical policies or codes from 2024 that are safer or more clear written than the 2021?
Not in my opinion, no. There's not that drastic of a difference, at least for the borough's purposes.
So, but couldn't we mix and match? Use the 2024 code, all that for the build process and get it back to the 2021.
I don't believe so, no. Which section are you asking about?
The 2024, I'm just surmising that they might have made some changes on actually the technical standards. From 2021 to 24, there could be a couple of changes in the technical standards.
Sure.
So might be best to have the best technical standards from 2024, but then use the less stringent appeal process from 2021. That's what I mean by mixing that.
But if something happens, if we adopt 2021, You're saying adopted 2021, use the 2024 standard?
Well, dogs at 21.
So adopted 2024,
But for the
all
bill,
about for the appeals process.
yes.
Because I would imagine these are just gonna continue to update, I think you said every 3 years. We don't wanna be stuck in 2021 just because of the appeals process in 2030.
Sure, point taken. I will say this to allay any concerns. Over 95% of that code hasn't changed in 15 years. So the major need for enforcement does not change. There won't be any changes in terms of electrical, plumbing, heating requirements. They've not changed since. The ICC used to be called BOCA. It's a term a group you may have heard of. They're exactly the same from when it was BOCA in the early 90s. What has updated is there didn't used to be a boarding standard. In my opinion, the changes every 3 years are minor.
So if we were to adopt the 2021 because of the more reasonable appeals process. Should the 2026, 2028 come out, and there is the ability that the appeals process is no longer as stringent as the current, we could then adopt that at that time,
That is correct.
correct?
And the planning, sorry to interrupt, and my understanding is that, the planning commission would look over this and look over, like, they would be in the rotation of hitting it every 3 years or whenever it comes out.
Sure, this was brought before the planning commission because according to these Pennsylvania municipalities code, which governs planning and zoning and our ordinance, planning commission is to propose a building and housing code to council, which they do not have the option to do for the building code because that's been ordained by the state. And everyone in Pennsylvania has to abide by that. But we were still left without a housing code, at least for existing houses.
And this covers that.
This covers that. The building code obviously would cover any new houses, so it's the housing.
So. There's the old ChatGPT, it's not the old ChatGPT. Some substantial difference between 2024 and 2021, 2024 introduced detailed checklists and guidance vectors and determining unsafe structures and systems. 2021 lacks this checklist. Determinations were more subjective. This is substantial change. 2024, enforcement clarity, better define authority to issue citations or impose liens. Clear language in civil and criminal penalties for violations, that's a substantial change. I think we just might, I would feel more comfortable, I'm just saying, I would feel more comfortable if we did a little bit more due diligence in the differences between the 2020.
And Mr. House, did the planning commission specifically look at all of the available, or at least some of the available, IPMCs that are out there, 2015, 2018, 2021, 2024? I know that this comes at the recommendation of the planning commission, so I think it would just be helpful for everyone if that process was a little more spelled out to see what led to their recommendation of this one particular version.
Great.
I mean, we definitely need to update our code. I think there's no dispute whatsoever that we need to update our code, so, we just want to give you as much power and, not power, but things to rely upon, fall back on.
Sure.
If
In my opinion, the ICC prints new code books every 3 years on all codes. What they call a substantial change may just be a complete different word in a paragraph. I'm not aware of any challenges to any enforcement measures. In my mind, I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't see any problem with the 2021 code in terms of enforcement.
to keep things moving, my thought would be to adopt the 2021 now and look into the future. And then if we do adopt the 2024, I mean, it'd be simpler, because right now we have to repeal a lot of things and implement a lot of things. So if we get the 2021 on the books now, you start to have the, authority you need, the specifications you need. And then we could look to see if we need to substitute out, in the future, if there was simple substitute. 2021 from 2024, half for this one and half that one. That's my thought.
Makes sense to me.
I don't like the idea of doing half this one and half that one, because what's the standard?
I agree with the mayor.
Makes sense.
How do you determine what half is, what half?
Maybe it's not half and half, maybe we get this going and research more what 2024 is to look for the future.
Well, it might have to have this meant the appeal process. I mean, I cut and paste this to the attorney all the time. I mean, but anyhow. I will, but anyhow. But some say just the appeal process, we don't like a specific section, so that's what I meant by that.
If I'm instead, I think it would be good for Jake to weigh in, as to whether or not, we could pick and choose what appeals process we want to utilize. Again, if they created a new appeals process in the 2024, that was the primary reason why Chris did not recommend the 2024. It would seem to me to adopt the 2024, you need to use the 2024 process.
So I know that Chris, you might be able to assist on this. I know that there are certain provisions of the IPMC that a municipality can elect to deviate from. So, for instance, if you look at the proposed ordinance tonight, you see that there's a section for amendments and revisions. I'm not sure, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, whether there's any flexibility with diverting from the appeals process set forth under the IPMC. So to me, I look at it as the options are you adopt the 2021, see how that fits. And then you can go back, and if, there are shortcomings with it, you can evaluate earlier versions, later versions, and see if there's a better fit. Or as Mr. Ray is suggesting, holding off, figuring out, is 2021 the best? And not having anything in place until that determination is made. With respect to picking and choosing methodology, you do have to pick one and stick with it, subject to what is allowed to be amended or revised.
I do not believe that you're allowed to amend any of the black and white language in the code, any of the international codes.
You're allowed to,
You are not.
you're not allowed.
Being technical, we won't be amending it, we'll just be using language from one and the language from the other, but anyhow.
Yeah, I think it has to be an all or nothing approach, but with the IPMC. If there are no further comments from Mr. House or council at this time, we can open it up to public comment. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. House. So at this time, if there are any members from the from the public who would like to specifically comment on the proposed ordinance, please step up to the podium, say your name and address.
Hello, everyone. Christopher Allen Crop, 1000 Green Tree Road, 996 Green Tree Road, 252 Park Edge. My only question is, between the two, you said that it was the appeals board that's the difference, correct? Sure. So the appeals board, does that mean that in 2021, the appeals board can be made up of citizens? And the appeals board for 2024 has to be made up of someone that has some sort of code experience. Is that what I heard or no?
No, that's not the crux of the difference.
Okay.
The difference is more members and more stringent policy for how to conduct an appeal, as well as their qualifications. They're both specific boards.
Okay, that was another question. All right.
Aldo R. Galati, 143 Shelton Avenue, Pittsburgh, 15220. I just have one question regarding the appeal board. As I understand, if we adopt this, the borough will need to have an appeal board in place. If this is adopted, is this code enforceable? Or is it enforceable, before an appeal board is in place, or is it not enforceable until an appeal board is established? In other words, would there be a period of time that we'd be without any kind of a code? Or would there be a period of time that we wouldn't be able to enforce the code until the appeal board was constructed? In other words, you have to have the appeal board in place before it's enforceable. I don't know if anyone has addressed that issue. Thank you.
Try what you can, giving legal advice. Um, Yes, technically you're correct. We need to institute an appeals board to make it enforceable. I do want to state, in the notice I wrote a member of council regarding, or at least mentioned this in part of it. The only way to get an appeal granted for property maintenance is if the correct interpretation of the provision. The claim is that the code official, which we myself obviously, has misinterpreted the code. So, looking for a hyperbolic example, there's no disputing a broken window. You don't get an appeal granted because I don't know what your claim would be, but there's no misinterpreting that code.
And I would say that the provisions of the IPMC would begin to apply immediately upon adoption. However, enforcement actions, you would have to establish an appeal board before Mr. House would be able to actually commence an enforcement action that would, in theory, could be appealable to an appeals board.
So it sounds like that's putting the cart before the horse. Where if we don't have an appeals board and need to enforce something, we can't. We don't have an appeals board set up, and that was 15 minutes.
That's correct. Well, I have seen them, Councilman, second. It's been my experience that municipalities have adopted the code first and then sought to establish the board. I understand your question.
But you can't, technically, we adopt this code tonight. In 2021, without an appeals board, tomorrow you can't force anything without an appeals board.
There may be provisions for, and I would have to look into, if, for instance, an appeals board is not currently assembled. A lot of times in codes generally, for instance, it might say you have to have an appeals board of 3 people. However, if an appeals board of 3 people is not in existence, then it goes before Borough Council to hear the appeal, to serve as that appeals board. I don't know off the top of my head what it says with respect to the 2021 IPMC. Mr. House, I'm not sure if you know.
The administration chapter requires creation of an appeal board.
Correct, but again, there could be case law out there that authorizes a board or council to serve.
Yeah, in the event that the board was not complete, right? So if someone was ill, was sick, had to step off, or there wasn't one, right? And we would have to issue something next week, right? It could come to us, based on whatever that case law is.
Perhaps, I'm not sure. I'm saying I have seen it with respect to others.
Question. I think also what Dave's point was, if we adopt this and we don't have the appeal board, none of this is enforceable. Would our existing ordinances still be in play? Underlying, at the time, like in this gap?
Yes,
That's, because there's still enforceable ordinances, just we won't have the teeth of this fully until the appeal board.
I'm in front of you, but Mr. Leland wrote the ordinance. It doesn't cancel any other ordinances out.
Okay. So this is just another layer on top of what we currently have.
So when I read the memo, I interpreted, this is how I interpreted the steps of us. That tonight, we have the opportunity to adopt this. If it should get adopted, then that gives us the time to update everything in our codes or ordinances, make sure that, we all know, right, as citizens, that this is the thing. As that is happening, the ask for the appeal board applications are out. That would get picked And we would appoint, and then at that point, then that becomes the set standard, right? That is our codes. But in that in-between time, we do still have, our current.
Yeah, let me clarify. Solicitor wrote the ordinance with repealers. However, they're quite specific. So in my opinion, several of those ordinances, or at least parts thereof, could be applicable, even with the FPMC in effect.
There's also the provision in there that the ordinance shall take effect immediately upon being recorded in the ordinance book. So in theory, you could hold off on actually recording this in the ordinance book until you have an appeal board in place, which would keep unquestionably all of the existing property maintenance provisions of the code of ordinances intact. This is public comment section, so come on.
Yeah.
Sam, so, I agree, sure. Why couldn't you just amend the ordinance to have it in effect date to be like August 1st, and that would give you the next few weeks or months, however, whatever. Or throughout August 1st to enact, and then at that point, you could still vote today to have it start whatever day you decide, and then you have that time to set up an appeals.
That also works. It sets a deadline.
Makes the most sense.
Are there any public comments at this time? Perfect, seeing none, that will conclude the public hearing on proposed ordinance number 1909. At this time, I will finally turn it back over to Council President.
Thank you. We have the approval of the May 5th minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes? So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the May 5th minutes? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
And any states, thank you. That motion passes. All right, we now have the hearing of the citizens. All persons wishing to address general business or agenda items will be heard at this time.
Christine Short, 251 Park Edge. Last month's council meeting, Point Park came. And they discussed the field over there. And while I think it's a great idea for council. Point Park, I think that we paying most of it. And what really bothers me is. And I watched that tape a couple times. Miss Barron, you were on public facility and equipment for a long time. I've been coming to council meetings for a long time. And every time you spoke about public facility and equipment, you always said that you and Miss Miller are in contact with Point Park. I read through a lot of minutes, and the one that came up closest to this meeting that was held last month was September 9th. A meeting was held with representatives from Point Park University on August 23rd to discuss the improvements that Point Park University would like to see done on the field at Green Tree Park. A memorandum of understanding, in parentheses MOU, was distributed for review. Additional meetings will be scheduled once the MOU has been reviewed. So what my problem is when you ask them where they got the $225,000 grant money. And why you weren't notified, and neither was Miss Miller.
Yeah, we weren't.
Well, it was if you folks tell me all the time, when I see you, that you're in contact with the state representative, Dan Deasy. It was publicized,
No,
let me finish.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Short.
It was published in his newsletter. So if you were in close contact with Point Park and had continuous meetings, did you read this memorandum? Or that's right, council doesn't read, they just sign everything. That was also noted in one of the minutes. But what I don't understand is how did you not know if you were in close contact with?
So, like,
Point part.
I will only speak for myself. When we were notified of that was when that email came from Mr. Deasy. I had to actually reach out to Mr. Deasy's office, so did Miss Miller, and so did Miss Schwartz. Because I, at that point, had taken over as president. We never, ever at all saw their application, nor did we have, they had been given an MOU. We never got any information back for them until that, the grant was awarded. In that grant, it does say that they, sought our approval. That would have been a vote here on council. We did not vote on that. It never came to us. That's why I asked that question, because we did not have the ability or the, even though we specifically asked multiple times to have them come, we did not have any of that information given to us. Yes.
I will say too, I was the one that met with them on August 23rd. And at that meeting, they had asked me if I would apply for a grant on their behalf. The grant was due August 30th. And I said, not only do I not have the authorization to do that, the time frame 1 week for a grant of that magnitude is pretty substantial. That was that meeting. And I did not hear from them again until after.
Yeah.
But nobody reached out to them, according to the minutes here, it's like additional meetings will be scheduled once the MOU has been reviewed. And if you didn't get the MOU, how come you didn't reach out to
We
them?
did reach out to them multiple times.
We sent them.
I don't know who to believe, to be honest with you.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to believe me. But I do tell the truth. I do not lie. And we did multiple times. And in order to get that application, I had to get it from one of the county council members. I had to reach out to the county to get it because Point Park did not give it to us. Mr. Deasy's office did not give it to us until we continued to reach out to people above us. Yes.
Right, well,
Ms. Schwartz, do you want to add anything to that? Because you were part of that
I did speak
conversation.
with Mr. Deasy, and they did not know that they had not contacted the borough. When that application went through, there was no knowledge that the borough was not told that they were filing that grant proposal. And we were assured that because the grant proposal was contingent upon the project happening, that those grant funds would not go to them until council decided. Regardless of what went on there, it is now an ongoing discussion. But we did review an MOU from them. What, how many months ago was that, Jake?
I'm not sure.
It was actually
For dates? For dates?
Yeah, so originally, and we sent a reply back at that time, we did not get a response from our response to them until about 2 weeks after they got awarded that.
Even though it had been asked for.
So we had been waiting for months for them to come back for our reply. It was not that we weren't trying to communicate with them, we were waiting for their response. Cause it's really at that point, their timeline, they wanted to do it. And then once they got the grant, they
The
responded.
vote was in.
Now, my other question is many council meetings ago, I brought up the fields and tournaments. I know last year there was something in place. Is there still the same thing in place, or did we just let that go to GAA?
What do you?
About charging for tournaments
Oh,
over
we
there?
do, we charge for.
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Frank Fingers. I was here a couple months ago about the speed on School Street. Just wanted to see if there was any update on that. If you guys, there was talk about a speed study, maybe using speed bumps from McKenna. Just wondering if there's any update on that.
I was under the impression that we did put speed monitor up.
Yeah, those are up, but those don't actually go to anything. They just monitor the speed.
Correct. And from the results of that, speeding was not out of the ordinary, and we have upped the enforcement in that area.
So, yeah, the Green Tree Police are there all the time, and it's great, but I would invite any council member to sit in my driveway and watch that monitor. Because every car, 9 out of 10 cars go up that street or over within 25 miles. Guaranteed. I can bet any money you want on
Yeah, I believe you, it happens on my street
that.
too.
And that's, you know. But in the monitors, I'm under the belief that they actually don't go anywhere. And I was,
So you want a speed bump for this?
I mean, there was talk a few months ago about maybe using the ones from McKenna, just to try it, to see if it would slow people down. You know,
I will follow up on that again, but I know the police have been there, as you indicated. And I know they have the monitor up there. You cannot ticket someone unless they're going, you can't ticket someone for 30 miles an hour.
yeah, I understand. I mean,
So,
and, they can't use that as for a ticket either. I mean, the monitor on the thing, that's just tells people how fast they're going. It doesn't, from my understanding, it doesn't actually do anything. It's not a speed study, is what I was told.
yes, so we're, speed bumps, we'll look into, but,
Or at least try something.
we'll continue to monitor it. In the meantime, I'll relook into the speed bumps. Thank you.
So there's two things. So one, we need to look into whether or not that data is being collected within that speed monitoring device. The other part of that is that that device is supposed to be a deterrent in itself. Obviously, it's not working, so we need other means of enforcement.
I mean, I can sit there and take a video and, 10 cars that go up the street. I can bet you the 9 out of 10 are above those speed limit. So, I mean, and some are 36, some are 42, some, coming downhill, it's faster. So, but,
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
John Poplar, 57 Roads. While we're on the subject of speeding in the borough, I really think that we should look at some sort of, and I'm not thinking those speed bumps. I've been in other communities where they have, it's almost like a rumble strip. It's just a little raised asphalt piece or what, it might even be paint, I'm not sure, but there's like 4 of them in a row. I see them at parks in other communities. And I'll tell you what, you have to slow down, because if you don't, you're gonna be bouncing all over the road. I don't like the big bumps, but right across from my house at Wilson Park, I guess the speed limit there is 20, I believe. I get 15.
15.
I don't know anybody that's going 15 except maybe me, because I'm turning in my driveway. So I think we need to maybe do a speed study there too. And seriously think about putting something there. You got a lot of little kids playing soccer over there. And I really cringe to think that someone might get hurt there. If it's 15 miles an hour, I guarantee you 30% of the cars driving on that road are not going 15 miles an hour. And if it is a park, it should be marked on the road or with more signs than what we have there. Because I know you can't post the signs coming up the hill because you got the parking there. But again, you can paint something on the road, park ahead 15 mile an hour, get people to slow it down a little bit. Thank you.
Sam Selipick, 1195 Green Tree Road. I sent an email last week to the Community Engagement and Communications Committee about the communication survey. I've been asking for community surveys to be conducted for like 8 or 9 months now. And it looks like the communication survey took like 5 minutes. It's garbage. You're not gonna get useful data out of it. I think like you're missing key information. It was disseminated initially, it was introduced, launched in the newsletter. The newsletter is not even an option as a preferred like communication option. We're not asking if the borough's current communication is meeting the needs of the residents, which I think is a critical question to ask on a survey. We don't ask residents what recommendations they have to make communications better, which I also think is really an important question. I also bring up communications, most meetings I brought it up last month, and the communication survey wasn't mentioned to me then, wasn't mentioned during
the committee's brief, which makes me feel like it was a rush survey to be put into the newsletter. And ultimately, my biggest concern is that we're gonna lose trust with residents. They're not gonna keep spending time submitting surveys. Especially if we keep creating surveys that aren't usable. I know that this was a concern in the past for Ms. Miller and how she was conducting surveys and whether or not she was going to conduct surveys. We talked about it in the past. And I think that this is a prime example of that. The questions are confusing. I worry that we're not really gonna get usable data out of this, and we're just gonna, in a year, have to do it all over again. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so we will move on to our citizen commendation, from Mr. Ryan.
Tyler, you want to come up?
I'm front and center, Tyler.
So, this proclamation is for Tyler Dersham, the owner of Mario's Pizza in Green Tree. Whereas Tyler Dersham is the owner of Mario's Pizza and is a valued member of the Green Tree community. And whereas Mr. Dersham has continuously demonstrated exceptional commitment to the community through acts of service and generosity. And whereas he has supported numerous local community organizations, including meaningful contributions, Bacon Elementary through event sponsorship and donations. Whereas on April 30th, the night following a significant storm event, Mr. Dersham generously prepared and served 700 pounds of wings to residents affected by the storm. And whereas he continued to support in the days that followed by providing dozens of pizzas, drinks, and supplies for a community lunch held the following weekend. And where Mr. Dersham's actions exemplify the spirit of service, leadership, and community that define the Borough of Green Tree. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Borough Council, Green Tree, Pennsylvania, that Tyler is hereby recognized and commended for his unwavering dedication, generosity, and exemplary community spirit, resolved and adopted the second day of June 2021.
Thank you so much, Mario's Pizza, always helping our community in so many ways through school fundraisers, meetings. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Do you want to say anything? You can, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can.
I'm not originally from Green Tree. I bought Mario's in 2015. I moved on Glencoe a couple years later. I'm happy to be a part of this community. I have 2 kids that eat there now. Thankful for everybody supporting my business so I can give back to the community. So thank you guys just as much for your time.
Okay, we are on to new business and the committee chair reports. First up, we have infrastructure. Ms. House.
So just a reminder that next Monday, June 9th, we are going to have a public meeting to gather input from the community in relation to the PennDOT meeting that we had on March 13th, 2025. If you were not present at that meeting, the meeting and video is on the Green Tree Borough's website if you'd like to review prior to coming to the June 9th. I would like to point out that no members from PennDOT will be at that meeting on June 9th. They are asking for a unified response from council after we get more community input and council will provide information to PennDOT after that time.
And the planning commission as well.
The planning commission will be present as well. The Holiday Mansfield storm line work has begun. That is to be completed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The Arlo storm water outfall restorations construction is complete. There's a couple punch list items that need to be finished in the next week or so. The stream restoration project, in addition to the retaining wall, is expected to begin in June or July. And that work is paid for by grant proceeds that were received in 2023. Phase 3 construction specs from the sidewalk improvements to Green Tree Road Bids are due June 29th, and we anticipate awarding a contract in July. Trumbull Bridge project final design is underway. Heckler Drive sanitary sewer project is complete, restoration has been completing, and there are just a few punch list items for that. Mr. Leland continues to work with their communications on the insurance representatives for the fiber optic property damage. The big thing to note today is the road program. We are going to be making a motion shortly to do repaving on Anderson and Holiday, which were included in the base bid, in addition to 4 alternates. And this project, I do just want to call it out, this project is coming in at about $97,000 over budget. We do have the funds to cover that. Unfortunately, given the winter that we had and the damage that was sustained to a lot of the roads in Green Tree Borough, and unfortunately, we can't even pave all of the ones that need to be repaved. And with Columbia Gas doing some work and tearing up some roads, we felt it was in the best interest to get caught up on the road improvement project and get all 6 roads done this summer. So we are looking to award a contract tonight for that. Does anybody have?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say that I have gone out. Mr. Pienza, is a firm believer in going out and like looking at roads. And I don't always have the time, but, what my road was one that got bumped down.
Mine too.
And so when I had neighbors ask why ours was bumped down, I wanted to take a look at the other roads. And I can say with certainty, I'm glad we're doing the roads that we're doing. And that I have faith that we will continue on this work.
Yes, so the add alternates are Robin Hood, Park Edge, Acrest, and Forest Drive, in addition to Holiday. Sheldon has been pushed as well due to expected work by the gas company next year.
So were there roads that were previously paved recently that were repaving because of the pavement coming up?
No, those, we'll address some of those, through some crack sealing. And so in Green Tree, we have, concrete curbing. And a lot of times where the asphalt meets the concrete, sometimes when we have very severe winters, the water always seems to find its way and settle in between the concrete and the asphalt. And that is what can cause some of that disruption at curb line. But one of the remedies for that is to do some crack sealing to preserve the asphalt that's there.
So are we on side? My memory serves correctly, I thought somebody came up maybe a month before saying that there wasn't sealant applied between the concrete and pavement. And that area was especially damaged because, right, the water seeps down in there and expands and breaks up the asphalt, so.
Yeah, my understanding is that what was specified to be done, which is the correct process, was in fact done. It was good.
I move that we award the 2025 roadway paving and storm sewer improvement contract to Youngblood Paving in the amount of $954,152 in accordance with the borough managers and borough engineers correspondences dated May 27, 2025 and May 6, 2025 respectively.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Is Youngblood the new contractor for us? I don't recall that name.
I don't know if they've ever done work for Green Tree, but their work is supposed to be top notch.
Anybody look at the website? That you parking lots of that.
I didn't hear the comment. I heard website. I can't hear you.
My
Look at their
understanding they were
website,
selected as the lowest.
Their biggest contrast was parking.
Yeah, they were the lowest.
Well, just go back to Al Grande.
They're the lowest responsible, so negative is what you pay for the other person's. Company George would get.
And most of their projects that they list on the website are large parking lots, a dam, and a racetrack. And I don't recall that, that's why I don't recall that name ever coming up, so how do we vet these pavement contractors?
They were already reviewed by our engineer, deemed to be the lowest responsible bidder. It will be.
So lowest responsible, so they have to meet certain qualifications, right? Where is, do we know what this qualification is?
Any other discussion or questions?
They don't even list street paving, for their listed services.
Maybe having a bad website isn't a qualification.
The way the bid process goes. Okay, we're gonna roll to a vote if there's no other questions or comments. Okay, can we have all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Any,
No. I vote no.
okay, any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Thank you. Ms. Schwartz, Public Facilities, Parks and Equipment.
All right, well, the pool was open today, everyone. That is the best news. And it was warm enough for people to be there, so pool is open. Hopefully the warm weather will start to cooperate with us so that we should be open more than one day every 3 days. But it will be open full time starting this Friday. That's the last day of school for KO, so we will be open Sunday through Monday, starting Sunday through Saturday, starting this coming week. As we have 2 hearings this evening from Planning Commission, one was regarding the Allegheny County Department of Youth and Family Services moving into a building at Parkway Center. That came before Planning Commission, was recommended, and then the second was the adoption of the International Property Maintenance Code, which we had a public hearing for earlier, which was also recommended by the Planning Commission. So that is moving forward. We'll be voting on those 2 issues this evening, or we voted on one already. Other than that, parks are open, baseball fields are going. Please remember when you're in the parks, follow the rules. We do not allow smoking in our parks. We do not allow dogs off leash in our parks. We do have a dog park if you have dogs where they can be off leash. You do have to have a permit and access key to get into the dog park. It is summer. There are going to be kids out and about. Please pay attention when you're in the parks. Little ones are hard to see when you're driving on those roads. As we mentioned, 15 miles an hour is the speed limit on a road, but when you're driving in Green Tree Park, it should be even slower. There are also people who use those parking lots as an extension of the walking and running track. So just be cautious when you're out and about in our public facilities, that you're paying attention to your surroundings and our residents while that's going on. We look forward to having a really wonderful summer outside in the municipality. Also, repairs for the municipal building. As you saw outside, we're waiting for the insurance process to take place before that would be started, but it is non-structural and the repairs will be done as soon as that process has completed. Judy, am I missing anything right now?
The only other thing was, damage from the storm was the Point Park, one of the restaurants at the Network University field, that roof was blown off. We're in the process of working with the insurance company to get, to recover the roof from where it blew off and then, make the necessary repairs to be dug out.
And it's important to keep the kids off the roof. There are some kids climbing on that roof.
Yeah.
Weekend, there's water drainage underneath the roof, so it looks like an old house. It's acting chief. Chad said that, very likely a child could fall through that roof and there could be a pool of water underneath there, so remind your kids not to go out.
perhaps not as immediately serious as children climbing roofs. I like when we mention, the no smoking in our parks, but also includes vaping and e-cigarettes. So those are also, and pipes and cigars and things like that.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll see when there are adults on the field, they kind of forget that they're in the park. They're in the park and there are children in it, so please do not do. All right, so,
Not part of it. My understanding that the nature center, I believe one other park, you're allowed to have dogs.
nature center is,
On leash.
yes, not
On
off.
leash, not on leash. There are no parks, no other parks would be had a dog on leash, including Green Tree Park.
Correct. Dogs are not permitted in Green Tree Park except in the dog park fenced area. So, and to go from your car to the dog park, they need to be on leash. So you cannot like get them out of the car and let them run to the dog park. They have to be leashed in that process. And that's for the safety of the dogs, the owners and the residents that are visiting the park. So with that being said, I propose ordinance 1909, International Property Maintenance Code. I move that we adopt ordinance number 1909, establishing the International Property Maintenance Code as the standard for property maintenance in Green Tree Borough.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have discussion?
Does anyone want to make an amendment to put it into effect at a later date so that we have time to establish the appeal board?
I think that would be advisable, for August 1st or August 15th.
I would like, August 15th, I would prefer, because we have to get that all manually updated, and we do have vacations, there's a lot to do.
So that also, if we're going to follow the process that we have followed for, say, planning
Yes.
commission, zoning hearing board, we would want applications to be submitted. And we want to interview those candidates. So, yeah, I would definitely want to give us at least 2 meetings to get that done.
I can't make them, can't.
Yeah.
Make a motion to amend the original motion of setting date of August.
In, going in.
For it to
effect,
go into effect.
Going to effect on August. Okay, do I need to reread this? Are you good with that, Jake?
That's good.
Is that good?
Okay,
All right.
so now we have a motion to change it. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, or do we need to
Do a roll call on the amended motion.
roll
Can
call
you reread it?
on the amended motion? Yes, could you please reread it?
I move that we adopt ordinance number 1909, establishing the International Property Maintenance Code as the standard of property maintenance in Green Tree Borough to go into effect on August 15th, 2025.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Can we have a roll call?
I have a question. And I vote yes and then abstain from the actual motion. Or should I abstain?
This second motion's going to wipe out the first motion.
Correct. The only motion now,
Is the second
The
motion.
second motion.
correct. So the only motion before council right now is voting to adopt the ordinance with it going to effect on August 15th.
So we're not voting on the
Correct.
change to the agenda.
No, we're voting on, I guess to make it neater, we
We can
could.
vote on the amendment, the amended
Sure.
amendment, and then.
Just
That's what I thought we were doing.
Yep. Sure, so this will be a motion
Yes.
to approve the
The amendment.
So
motion.
you can
So I'm
vote.
gonna abstain on,
The full thing.
Full-
Yeah.
Second
what
time.
should I do the first time?
That's entirely up to
Well, I
you.
don't-
You
I
could
don't
say
wanna-
yes,
No, you
for
can
the
say-
first
you can
one,
say
and
it's
abstain
about-
the second time, or whatever you'd like to do.
Because I know everyone's gonna ask me my reason for abstention, first one, I really don't have one.
Which
I
I
want
forgot
the
to
second.
ask Art why he abstained to the minutes.
Because he wants to,
Well, of course, we know that, but he's right, I didn't ask.
Well. Glad you're holding yourself accountable.
All right, so this is a vote
on the amendment,
to-
the amending the amendment.
Yes,
Yes. Okay. We good?
let's have a roll call vote. This is getting confusing.
Yeah.
Ms. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Tintori,
Yes.
Ms. Demi,
Yes.
Ms. Haltz,
Yes.
Mr. Panza,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Ms. Barron.
Yes. Okay, Now,
Now. I move that we improve or we adopt ordinance 1909, establishing the International Property Maintenance Code as the standard for property maintenance in Green Tree Borough to go into effect on August 15th, 2025.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we have in place how we adopt the appeals board? Or are we voting on this to create an appeals board
vote.
without any idea of how we're going to adopt?
We would use the same process that we use for all commissioners and any board, resident board. So application, publish it, interview, and then.
Okay,
And the planning commission would do those interviews.
Yes, the planning commission would be in charge.
And bring a recommendation, bring recommendations to us for approval like all other boards.
so that would be under the, infrastructure,
It would-
be under the
I-
planning commission infrastructure.
Right.
Okay,
Actually, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
now,
that's what I meant.
if there's no other discussion, another roll call vote.
Ms. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Tintori,
Yes.
Ms. Demi,
Yes.
Ms. House,
Yes.
Mr. Panza,
Yes,
Mr. Ray,
And the reason for my abstention is I feel like personally, I don't have enough information to make a determination on 2021 versus 2024. I appreciate all the work that planning commission, Mr. House did, put this forward, but getting this agenda packet Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock doesn't give me much time to go through this however many pages, hundreds of pages. I've asked in the past for more time to review. I believe there's probably time that this could have been sent out earlier in the month for review. So that's the reason for my abstention.
Okay, Ms. Barron,
Yes. Okay, that ordinance. Okay. That, we already did the other one, so we're moving on to public safety and equipment, Mr. Red.
So, all right, there we did that. Okay, good. So public safety and equipment. So first, I'd like to recognize the fire department. At their February annual meeting, they recognized officers in terms of the number of responses, individual responses to calls. They publicly recognize that list of volunteer firefighters. This list does not include Dan Short and Don Goff. They being their positions in the fire company, they respond to most. But the line officers, that's not line officers, what's the proper fire department members? Andrew Grab with 174 calls, Tony Bucci with 128, Randy Short with 106, Patrick Walsh with 102, Jim Davis 84, Luke Kramer 84, Bob Thomas 84, Gavin Hutchison 68.
Yes.
Are we good? You okay? Josh Short, 60. Anthony Thomas, 57. Bob Sweeney, 56. Appreciate them putting their lives in the line, responding to calls in the borough. It's disrespectful you did this, Tori. Fire or police department. In May, the Green Tree Police Department handled over 160 calls. That included 10 accidents, 16 animal complaints, 3 DUIs, 4 drug cases, and 3 warrant arrests. They also assisted other departments 17 times. Notable calls included a gun threat at Starbucks that led to an arrest, major vandalism at a car wash with $70,000 in damage, and a $500,000 fraud case referred to the FBI. Officers also responded to several mental health and juvenile related incidents, along with follow-ups from the April storm. Electric scooters. So I know this isn't gonna make the youngsters in our community happy, but state law says that, if a bicycle has any type of acceleration assist, whether gas or electric, it cannot be legally operated by anyone under 16 years of age. Now, there are no age restrictions on electric scooters. Those are the ones that you see a lot of kids or previously seeing a lot of kids in the borough riding, right? They have the small wheels, handlebar, they usually stand up. They cannot be driven on any public roadway. They're permitted on sidewalks and must yield to the right of way pedestrians, so unfortunately, my son was pulled over by acting chief. I got a call from the acting chief saying, hey, your kid can't be on an electric scooter, so if anybody's in the market for an electric scooter, I got one in my garage. Let's see, we talked about the no dogs on the walking trail. The Green Tree Fire Department's Sportsman Bash fundraiser is on September 6th. Great event to help the department raise funds for their operations, and it's a great community event too. We had a public safety meeting on May 23rd to discuss the purchase of fire truck. And a change order, including the change order process related to the purchase of that fire truck. Donnie Goff, the mayor, Ron, Judy, and myself were present. And on June 16th, the Public Safety Committee is having another meeting to review the storm response and a discussion on improvements moving forward, including our emergency management plan. And we also had an executive session prior to the first meeting tonight to discuss the process for hiring a police chief. We're down to our final candidates, and we're going to be scheduling final interviews for those candidates in the coming weeks. I believe that's the end of my chair report.
I have a small question.
Sure.
A couple of months ago, we had a community member write in about the safety of people walking in the evening. And has your committee had a chance to review that or offer anything?
Yeah, the acting chief put an article in the latest newsletter. And I believe there was also some things posted on social media. But yeah, we went back to the acting chief and he made recommendations on what we can do to improve pedestrian safety. Yeah. Okay. Parking fines, I'm going to make a motion that we table that again. Got a call from a couple of community members with concerns about doubling those fines, even though as the Public Safety Committee saw, the acting chief gave some rationale around that, but I think it makes sense for us to have a discussion on whether or not we want to double that fine. I also got feedback that should we review all the fines on that schedule?
I did ask him if there were any others that he would recommend changing, but I did not.
You didn't put forth the motion, so we don't have to,
Okay,
you
so
should not say it.
I'll say it, that'd be great. Yep. So that's why I'm not saying, so we're gonna meet with the Public Safety Committee to further investigate that proposed resolution.
Just a comment, if you park overnight when you're not supposed to, right now it's a $15 fine. Acting Chief Brannigan suggested to raise it to $30. I gave a couple reasons, but one main reason is a very practical reason. We're running out of tickets, so we have to reorder tickets. And tickets cost a lot of money with envelopes and everything. So, I mean, this is not a hill to live and die on. So we just need to know sooner rather than later to put on the ticket $15 or $30. He thought $30 would be a little more of a deterrent. And he also thought that it hasn't been raised since 1997 in the last 28 years. So that's why he was thinking, like I said, to go up to $30 from 15 for deterrent factor and for it hasn't been raised for 28 years. Anyhow, we can live with either way, we just need an answer pretty soon, so we have the tickets and we can get them reprinted.
We'll get it next.
Mr. Ray, do we know, cause Mount Lebanon has some streets that do not allow overnight parking.
25.
It's 25, that's what I was wondering, I mean, I think if we could,
We'll
I'd probably
direct
ballpark
the
to that, yeah.
I have an additional question, and if we can have it for next time, if we don't have it now, how many of those tickets do we?
That's the other thing that we're
Yeah.
gonna try to find out.
And, you know, you're right, Mayor, in 1997, there was no great, like, feedback from the public. I remember we went from 12 to 15 and no one really, like, that didn't phase any.
Small change,
Yeah.
or 15%.
Well, no, it was 30% increase.
One additional thing, we're gonna need to get back to the resident about, across from, Mr. Coppler's house about parking there. They've asked the questions about whether they could overnight park.
Yeah.
On that area, so we'll need a recommendation. All right, and we decide on that. Thank you.
That would be both public safety issues.
Yeah, those are. the-
So at next meeting, two things to.
Yeah, and I'm sure, cause I'm curious, right, the $15 in 1997 is the equivalent of $29 and change in 2025.
Yeah.
There was one other thing, Bob, this morning when you were at the intersection of Potomac and Green Tree Road, I saw that car blast right through that blinking red light on that school bus. Yeah. It almost took you out. I got a picture of that car if you want a license plate. But it's amazing how many cars go through blinking red lights on school buses. My kids, or my little one tells me that almost every day, Luke told me this too, almost every day, Green Tree Police Department has somebody pulled over because they're going through blinking red lights with school buses. And so we went over to Einstein's the other morning before school, and there was an officer parked over at the law offices, and he said, he's gonna get somebody, and sure enough, somebody flew right through him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked for a police car there, but they can't be there every day of the week.
Yeah.
They are, I know.
Well, I got the plate number because I ended up behind that guy on Potomac. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Doesn't school buses nowadays have cameras that catch, like, you know, just like traffic safety cameras that catch that?
Some do.
Some,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think ours
ours do. I mean, when we say ours, not
Yeah.
ours.
No,
but
I
ours.
Keystone Oaks.
In Keystone Oaks, doesn't own their school buses, they contract out.
Yeah, we use that.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the fire truck acquisition change order approval. This goes back to, I believe, 2021, we initiated this process. This change order is a result of a couple of different things. One, a supply chain issue with the vendor. The equipment that was originally spec'd and quoted no longer exists. So as a result, we see this change order, and because of that change, we needed to adjust some of the equipment that's going on the truck. So this includes, the majority of it is change order related to the supply chain issues, plus I believe 16,000
It's $16,000 just for the truck.
for the truck
Basic
base,
capacity.
and then the additional equipment that we added on for the benefit of our volunteer firefighters. The vendor passed through the costs of the supply chain, the change orders that they received from their supplier. So they didn't add anything on, so if it was 16,000, that's the invoice they got from their vendor, so they didn't mark that up for profit. So I moved, we approved the sales change agreement number 2 in the amount of $74,163. As presented by the Keystone Fire Apparatus Company in accordance with the Borough Manager's memorandum dated May 30th, 2025.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions?
When will the truck be delivered at this point?
Still has to be built.
Still has to be built,
10 months.
but this gets us closer, right?
Yes.
All right,
This gets it going.
Sounds good.
most important.
Roll.
Okay, so, Can we have an all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? That motion passes. Get that all rolling.
And then one more thing I forgot to mention, my chair, the emergency management plan, we now have that online.
Yes, I think,
The portions that are not confidential, I believe have been posted.
That,
They have.
no, you know what, we did not yet. I
Okay.
think
They're not-
Jake gave me the directive that I can post only part of it. I need to break it apart and then give it to.
okay,
Some of it contained confidential
sure,
information.
okay.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. All right, recreation and community events, Mr. Vanza.
Thank you. The farmer's market is up and running. I personally went over to help tear it down last week. Judy, I did want to mention, the shed that they store the stuff in. It's all full of other stuff, like light up night signs and that, and, they were wondering if we could clear that, get that, if you could, whoever would be in charge of that, like, you know, just keep the farmer's market stuff in that shed, but then, of course, we will be having a Oktoberfest meeting pretty soon, always looking for volunteers from the community. And also, some of you, did you see the memo from the president about, 2026 is our 250th?
I did not send that to everyone.
Oh, okay.
I just sent it to. the
Recreation.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, we're looking for 2026 to do some special things for recreation to celebrate the 250th anniversary. So
that's what we're calling it, of America.
of America, and hopefully, we could work, like, one of the things we might enact the first council meeting. It's really interesting, the minutes. We could have the audience participate. There was complaints about someone's cows coming on their property and there's not enough horse stalls in front of the post office. I thought we could have fun one night with that and just go from there, but that's really the end of my input.
Mr. Vanza, I have a question for you, unrelated to that, but related to deer.
Yes,
So the deer commission or the deer group that was established.
Yes.
Predates me.
yes.
So-
We are waiting upon having a meeting with Whitetail Deer Management. The only thing is we can only contact them as an official body. Like, I cannot contact them myself, only Green Tree Borough can contact them, and we are still waiting. Contact to set up a meeting with them for just discussions, no set direction.
So who would that meeting be with?
With we formed a deer committee,
But what I'm asking for is some information on that, because that predates me.
yes.
And we don't have anything, like, it doesn't seem, when we look at all of our other boards and commissions online, that one is not listed. It's not something that, so is it still active, or does it need to go
No.
to the community group to spin it up again and then come into your plan?
Well, no, we can put it that on.
So we should accept some applications for that then.
And we will continue accepting applications, yes.
Okay, so you'll need to get that up and having some applications for it.
We can do that by the end of this week,
I have some additional, when that group gets together,
yes.
there is some additional, information that I got at the, ALOM conference and through, the state in terms of, things that we need to be aware of, things that, the best practices of which you might want to follow.
But I mean, the next step and the step that we have been waiting for is possible dates to meet with Whitetail Deer Management.
Well, let's get your
discuss.
group together and then you can have that.
No, we have the group together. It's just, that was when the group met.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that hasn't happened in a long time, and we get,
Well,
it's
that, I
one
know,
of the
that's
most,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
We've been waiting for a long time for a response to Whitetail Management.
Well, so let's just get it reenacted then. If you have it, let's put the applications online. You'll have lots of interested new people, probably some other people, not oldest in terms of age, but people that were involved before.
Yeah.
Because, outside of our stop signs and the speeding, it is the number one, complaint I hear.
Oh, absolutely,
Come
absolutely.
to my yard.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, it's all over the place, so.
And that's what I'm saying, we're not going in any direction, we're just gaining information.
Yeah, I have some more information to give you, but I need, that your group needs to get together and you can happily have all of it.
Yes.
Now that group, am I supposed to be in that group? It's a recreation thing.
No.
It's a volunteer group.
It was a
So we'll
volunteer
accept new
group
applications.
that was formed. Yes.
But it predates me, so. It's been a long time.
No, it doesn't. Ron and I met and I emailed them, the Whitetail Dare Management people, and they said it had to come from the borough office, not me. They didn't understand that I was doing it for the borough.
And we've made
I don't
requests to the
support
borough
that.
office several times. And we're giving them time, but the borough office, it has been like a year almost.
No updates on that.
Yeah, so,
Would you say the borough officer referring to me?
well, no,
I
when
think that's been
actually,
asked.
we asked that someone has to contact Whitetail Deer Management, et cetera.
Just have not.
Yeah, we haven't received any of that information to do, but let's get, it's not just, it can't just be you and Miss Jones. So let's get the other folks, I'm sure there's other people who would like to do it, and then your group that group can identify dates that are available and send that to Miss Miller to pass.
Why can't we just do it? Why do you need a deer
No.
committee when there's obviously a deer problem?
And it has.
In order, then if that's the case, then I need a motion that we do things, so,
Well,
okay.
That's why you need also, action to initiate this response to the white deal. Let's do it.
I'm fine.
If I may make a suggestion, I would be happy to call Whitetail Management and ask him how best to start the process. And then I'm gonna send everybody to the phone just to let me know.
Sounds great.
Do something.
Anything else?
Yeah.
That was my questions, was about the deer.
yeah, so, I mean, we were just waiting for a response.
Well, we'll restart that and get a
Okay.
response.
We'll ramp that up.
Community engagement and communication, Ms. Demi.
There is a touch point survey in the most recent community newsletter. I encourage everyone to fill it out online, have paper, you can drop it off, there should be additional copies in our office. It's not intended as a larger all-encompassing survey, that we're working on building out. This is just beginning to understand engagement and start to establish some baselines for data collection as we move forward. We don't have, any of that, as it stands right now. As a reminder, the bus line running through Green Tree is currently on the proposed cut list, along with a huge amount of other services in the area. What I'm going to read is direct from PRT. PRT is actively gathering public feedback during our fiscal year 2026 funding crisis public comment period, which runs through Wednesday, June 18th at 5 p.m. So far, we've received 3,754 comments across multiple formats, including 3,333 online comment forms, 113 attendees at the April 29th hearing, 55 attendees at the May 6th hearing, and only 40 registrants for June 12th so far. Still have time to weigh in. You can submit written comments by mail or at our downtown service center. You can call the public comment line, or you can attend the final public hearing, which is Thursday, June 12th at the convention center from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 3 to 7 p.m. The links will all be posted on the Green Tree Borough website. If they aren't already, and they are up there. So those should be good to go if you want to get your voice heard in keeping services of public transportation in Green Tree. And I will be scheduling a committee meeting this month because we will be discussing the 250th anniversary of America that Ron mentioned, celebration and what that looks like in terms of forming a volunteer committee to assist with that. as well as looking at the reformation of the traffic advisory board and what is entailed in that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who created this?
I worked in conjunction, with Tim and Ms. Miller.
We had a committee and I wish we would have talked about that as a committee. Put that together.
There was space in the newsletter, it was recommended that maybe we look at using that to start to establish, as a full survey. So that's.
No, I mean, as a committee, probably should have met, to discuss how we were supposed to, how we should have deployed that survey, what we should have asked. More collaboration on that, I think. Because I was not involved in that, no.
Anything else? Okay. We have finance and borough administration.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Gordy.
First off, the committee met in the middle of last month, and we worked on the ordinance, salary ordinance, which will be presented shortly. Also, the administrative position, which has been filled. We had, among other things, and we had looked at the cost of the paving, which has been already passed. So I will move forward and make a motion to ratify the actions.
Question,
Pardon me?
do you have a question?
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Could you update us on the AI policy?
Yeah, policies is been sent back.
It's still in my office. My
Yes.
colleague is an expert at it. She just hasn't had the opportunity to look at it yet. It will be back for consideration in July. Right, July.
And, performance review policy?
That was because we were adding extra group, AI was
Yes.
adding. To make sure everybody, he knows why it was been.
What was the next
Where's-
question? Florence review?
It was about the personnel, thing. Yeah.
Yeah, my next question was, and I realize you put this in your update.
Yes.
I just wanna show it for public record. The update on the performance review policy.
Yeah, we'll be looking to put one together to, as like a goals-based policy, so that we can then, set those goals for the following year and then at the end of each year. Goals.
And it'll be a written, it'll be a written form.
It'll be written in the.
The ordinance or the policy for council contacting contract third parties.
We did speak about that at committee meeting, and I took those, comments that they had given to me, and then I sent it back to the committee, so I'm not sure we'll talk about that. This, not this.
Okay, did you also talk about the possible change to the food truck ordinance?
No, I don't think we talked about the food truck order.
That was kind of, so a little bit different now, because we don't have any actually committee anymore. So not, I guess, that could go.
The finance committee said they were gonna issue.
Yeah, we could do that. Actually, I will have Chris pull out the one that we had started a couple of years ago that didn't end up going. Get some, and send something out for July.
Last month's meeting, you said you'd come to, you'd have a summary for the peer reviews.
Yes, I am still working.
When can we expect this?
Probably within the next week. Yes.
And then you also provide us a list of the yearly IT costs.
Mhm.
Is that,
That's not yearly, that's.
is that monthly, $5,000 a month, is that all, that's all in, so all facilities and all vendors, all equipment?
That's our IT company, yes. No, that's not.
It's not wired, it's not Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's for Comcast, or maybe some Verizon spread out a little bit.
That's all my questions.
I'd like to make a motion to ratify the actions of the borough manager in paying the May 2025 invoices from the general fund totaling $25,266.58. Payroll account fund totaling $206,320.99. Educational Service Agency Fund totaling $5,050.03. And credit card March 2025, $5,326.79.
I'll second.
The motion in a second. Any discussion or question? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay, that motion passes.
Next, I'd like to make a motion to approve payment of the June twenty twenty-five invoices from the general fund totaling $161,490.18. Storm sewer fund totaling $37,257.31. Sanitary sewer funding totaling $8,191.43. And capital projects fund totaling $11,362.83.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
I have questions. On the storm sewer fund. We have, about $1.3 million in anticipated revenue through grants. According to the best year-to-date compared budget report, we haven't received any of those funds yet.
They're all reimbursement grants, so.
So, but we haven't
Some,
received any reimbursement yet.
we should have, we put in for one, a large one last month, so maybe at the state level, by the time it goes in, gets approved, and then a check distributed, just hasn't come in yet.
And then my other question is related to the sanitary sewer fund. The heckler, grinder pump, that wasn't budgeted for 40,000.
That was all grinder pumps are part of the, overall project. There's 3 of them.
But it's called out separately for some reason. The heckler sanitary grinder pump.
I think that was probably just a progress payment. And maybe.
It's not a payment, this is in the budget.
You're not looking at the bills, you're looking.
No, I'm looking at the budget.
Compared to the budget. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, compared to budget, so it was in the budget.
I'm not sure why she would have it separate, but so that Heckler Drive sanitary sewer project. Rebranded costs for the residents that are on site.
Did we need another one or something that wasn't budgeted? For 40,000?
40,000, no, absolutely. I'm not sure. I have that channel for last year as a call, so.
Yeah, so month to date actual, it's like we paid,
Grinder pump does not cost $40,000.
I'm just,
Okay.
I hope not, but that's, I'm just reading.
Maybe if
what
you
it
don't
says.
mind, like, do you have the line item on it?
08436 290.
Okay, I'll send you the.
Yeah, and then something else was sanitary. Questioning. The uncollected surcharge. Is that another reimbursement? So, in the sanitary sewer fund surcharge for almost $1 million. We haven't collected on any of that yet.
And I don't,
That's,
I don't have those.
0808
Great.
364 950. There's a sanitary sewer collection fee which we're collecting on, but there's a surcharge. 953,000 that we haven't collected anything on.
I'll check on that. I'll put that in the.
Yeah, and there's like fiber optic reimbursement, we haven't plugged on that yet either. Okay. All right, those are all my questions.
Okay, we have a motion, second, a discussion. We have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? That motion passes. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 1908, which is setting wages and benefits for full-time borough employees. So I'd like to make a motion. I move that we pass ordinance 1908, setting wages and benefits for the full-time borough employees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We did meet in an executive session before this to discuss it as well. So can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Tintori?
Yes.
Ms. Demi?
Yes.
Ms. House?
Yes.
Mr. Panza?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Ms. Schwartz?
Yes.
Ms. Barron?
Yes. That motion.
That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Mayor's report, Mr. Shank.
Thank you. In regards to the as Mr. Ray indicated, we're looking for a new police chief. We've hired the Police Chiefs Association to help us out in the process. They started with 12, then they got it down to 5. The Police Chief Association interviewed the 5 candidates here. They asked each for an hour. They asked them all the same questions, and they recommended to us to go to 3, us being council and the mayor go down to 3, and we agreed with their 3 choices. So council will be interviewing those 3, hopefully within the next month or 5 weeks, to interview the final 3 candidates for police chief. So it's entirely in council's hands now in regard to interviewing and selecting a new police chief. In regard to, I used to be able to steal everybody's thunder because I went early. Now I can only steal a couple people's thunder. The new employee, it was mentioned, Amber is here. Judy introduced Amber, but she's the new employee. If you want to say a word or two?
Yes, actually, we are delighted to welcome Amber Blunt to our staff. If you visit the Borough Building, you visit the Borough Building or call, she will be the first face you will see, and she is a delightful, happy face. So feel very fortunate to have her on staff and look forward to it.
Thank you. Hopefully after tonight's meeting, she'll come back.
That was kind of the joke.
That has been the running joke since last week. I was like, I keep showing up, and she goes, we'll see if you show up on Tuesday.
A long night.
In regard to the police department, Mr. Ray indicated that they do a lot of things. Just want to read 2 things from the report real short. A vehicle was stopped for a moving violation, and the driver was taken into custody on an active arrest warrant out of the Allegheny County Sheriff's Office. I've pointed this out before you'd get a traffic violation, would run a red light, and that'd be it. But now with the technology, you can run their license plate, and now you find out they're a convicted felon. So a routine traffic stop can turn into a lot more dangerous. Like I said, this is just one example, but this happens approximately once a month. They stop someone and they have to arrest them. So we do send 2 police officers, even routine traffic stops if they're available. Then the other thing I just wanted to point out in the police report, officers assisted Ingram Police Department was serving a 302 warrant. That's a mental commitment on an individual with a violent history. The officers assisted with restraining the male and getting him handcuffed. Ingram Police Department transported the individual to the hospital for treatment. But that shows that we do have mental health problems, and we help neighboring communities. And you never know in those situations also, potential violence. So have to send kudos to the police department. They've done an excellent job. I have mayor's office hours on June 14th. That's not this Saturday, but next Saturday. So everyone's welcome. I notice the garden club is well represented tonight, as is the rec board, as is the fire department. We should keep tally that's the most people here. But they had this festival on May 10th, garden club, and they had their luncheon this past May 31st. It's my understanding that those were very good events. In regard to the Banner Community Award, we did receive it, but we shouldn't pat ourselves too hard on the back. There's 130 communities in Allegheny County, 80 communities received the Banner Award, and a number did not apply. So I'm not downplaying it, but we did receive it along with 80 other communities, so that's good. In regard to Mr. Ray pointed out the Public Safety Committee on June 16th. They're meet to discuss the borough's response. As one would say, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever we did good, whatever we did bad, whatever we did ugly. So with this day and age with electricity going off and stuff, we got to be careful with that. Just an aside, I told my grandson, 7-year-old, about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he immediately said, I'm the good, my brother's the bad, and you're the ugly bad. just like that, didn't even hesitate. But anyhow, Next thing here, on the fiber optic project, I think the next executive session, we just should get an update on that, the property damage that's been hanging out there for a while. I know litigation takes a while, but we'll get an update on their reimbursement for some damage they did next time. In regard to Point Park, going forward, I'm just gonna talk about going forward right now. Going forward, the Point Park gave us a contract, a proposed contract, it was 8-9 pages. And myself and our solicitor, with input from council, we had a meeting and we made some revisions to it, some substantial revisions to it. So we need a meeting now to get back that revisions to Point Park. So the ball is currently in our court. We have to get back to Point Park with their proposal. So they made a detailed proposal, took them a while. We have a counter proposal pending. So I'd like to get that meeting sooner rather than later. Right now, it's scheduled for an executive session on July 7th. But if we get time before that to go over our proposal, we get back to them to keep the ball moving, because they do want to spend, I mean, however they got it, they did get 225,000. So let's look at the reality. They have 225,000. They want to spend $1 million to put down turf. And that field has a water problem, so it would be better for our teams and everybody if we can come to an agreement. And so we have their interest, we've got to keep moving on that. And then lastly, on June 9th, the I-376 interchange that was already brought up, this is a meeting, but one of the purposes of the meeting, the planning commission would be their counsel. PennDOT has requested from the borough, they want a response from us by the end of June. They want our response to their proposal. I did do an article in the newsletter, a detailed proposal, a regurgitation of what their presentation was. I sent my, what's in the newsletter, I did send it to PennDOT before I published it. I said, am I accurately portraying what you were proposing? And they said, yes, it's a very accurate proposal, portrayal of our proposal. So anyhow, on June 9th, I hope a lot of people come, and then council will get that formal response to PennDOT as requested by PennDOT from us. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
I have a little question, not so much a question, but one of the things that I noticed in the police reports, that seems to be also growing monthly, is frauds and members of our community being scammed out of money. And that really falls on all of us to stay alert and to be alert for the folks in our life, whether it be loved ones or neighbors, to stay up to date with fraud. The district attorney tracks a lot of that, correct, Mayor? And they have a volunteer fraud squad. It is for anyone ages 60 and older. And it is a community of engaged older adults fighting back against scams and fraud. And they work with, they're the DA's senior justice advocates. And they receive the most up-to-date information on frauds and scams, so they can put that out into the community with their neighbors and their friends, so that as these frauds and scams are happening, and as a new one pops up and is reported to the DA, it goes out through this network of seniors. And that they can share it, whether it be in their garden clubs or their, book groups or whatever they're engaged in. Because it's something that we're seeing a lot more of at my work. We're seeing it a lot more in our police reports, talking to your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones. The amount of people who are calling or emailing and, perhaps even stopping by homes for not great reasons, and to scam people out of serious amounts of money.
That's good thought. I'll look into that. I wrote down in my notes, senior scam alert.
Yeah, it's the fraud squad through the district attorney's office.
If I can find out any more information on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
End of my report.
Okay, so for the president's report, the mayor did, I was gonna say, welcome to Amber. Thank the Garden Club for their great event. And alert everyone to some things that are happening in our community. People ask, I had someone ask me recently, oh, you know, you have a lot of library reports. It's not just because I love the library, of course I do love the library. But as part of my, role as borough president, I do sit as, the liaison to the library board. So I do attend all library board meetings. One thing that the library is doing, this month, and it will continue through the summer, but there's two options to attend this month, is their Appy Hour. Like app is in your phone. And they're hands-on sessions where staff and volunteers will assist you with two apps that are directly related to our community. There is the Green Tree Connect app, which allows you to stay up to date to borough news, upcoming events, service alerts, and things of the borough nature. And then there's also the Allegheny County Libraries app. That services you can search the library catalog, you can manage all of your holds and your checkouts. You can view and register for events straight through the app. And you can also, check out your books through the app. And that is, an app that is for the entire, not only, Green Tree Borough, but all of Allegheny County. So if you are someone who goes to different libraries, it would work at all of them. So there are two options this month, and then there are additional options this summer. But there is, the first class is on Tuesday, June 10th, from 2 to 3 o'clock. And then the second one is on Tuesday, June 24th at the same time. There does not require, you can register for the event. The space is limited. Because they want a small group of people so you can get that hands-on experience. But you should bring your own device so that they can help you get that on your own device, whether that's your phone, your tablet, whatever you would use, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, it does not matter. They're available on all of them. And then the summer reading will begin. The kickoff is on the 14th of June. That's from 2 to 4. It's a Saturday. I'll be there volunteering. But this is the third annual Summer Challenge kickoff party. It is for everyone. There will be games, crafts, treats, music, and the Summer Challenge signups with some amazing surprises. I don't know what those surprises are, so I will not spoil them. If the festivities, if it does rain, if we continue to have a wet, rainy June, the activities will move inside. But there is no registration for that one, and it is for all ages. The Barron family will be there. That's all I have for my report.
Madam President, may I update you on some information that you asked me and I was able to
Yes.
gather some further information?
Absolutely.
Okay, there is no DEER committee. We are the DEER task force. So,
Okay.
our last meeting was November of 2023. At that meeting, it was requested that we set up a meeting with Whitetail Deer Management, and we also asked the mayor for statistics on deer accidents. The mayor then responded and provided the statistics of the accidents on Green Tree Road. They were much lower than we anticipated. However, we took into account most people are probably not reporting autos hitting deer, like everyone's not reporting. So it's probably happening much more than the actual statistics. But the mayor did provide us the statistics. So, and the active members are myself, Lou Ann Jones, Helen Moran, and Lance DeLeese. So, I mean, I'll be more than happy to put that on the website if.
You forgot Brad.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah,
Brad Brandeborough, he couldn't get a babysitter that night.
yes, okay, I'm so, yes. And Brett, and we will, I will get that posted on the website, and we can also say we're looking for new members, and we will continue having meetings and going forward, but we really would like to talk to Whitetail Management. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, and Ms. Miller.
Okay, just want to let everybody know that the borough offices will be closed for 2.5 hours this coming Thursday afternoon. That would be June 5th from 1 to 1:30 for some necessary employee training. Farmers market this week will feature a Korean food truck. I will say the name, but I probably may not have the pronunciation, but it's Mr. Bulgari. Yeah. Okay, and Tom's Traveling Coffee. I can tell you, I was at an event this past weekend with Tom's Traveling Coffee, and the line was on all day, so quite a bit of children at home. Water aerobics, today's, it was the registration opening for phase water aerobics class. I know that's always a hugely popular program. It'll run from June 23rd to July 24th, so if you haven't registered, it did open today. So, oops, the pool. So just, try to be helpful. We always post the closing as soon as we know the closing will take place. Typically, the rule of thumb for us is if it's forecasted to be less than 70 and cloudy, we will close it because that's typically when we get very low temperature rates. I think anybody that's lived in Pittsburgh all their life knows that weather forecasted is less than accurate. We do our best. A lot of times when in doubt, we will open the pool and maybe close early. So if it is a day where the weather's a little bit questionable, have the Connects app, it will be pushed out through the Connects app as soon as we make a decision. So, like I said, less than 70 and cloudy. If it's right around 70, it's still supposed to be sunny, we'll still open up. But like this past weekend, we didn't really get much noise traffic, so we ended up closing. So just a little rule of thumb, that's what we'll be thinking, so that if you think it's questionable, just check the Connects app.
Judy, two things, update on the Green Tree Cemetery repairs.
They are coming out tomorrow. Yeah.
And then the other one, I talked to Chris at the planning commission meeting, there was some complaints about overgrown yards.
Yes.
I understand that there's an issue with.
Yeah, we were using a company, they had been a long time on the borough, we use them, and we have the properties that are vacant. We have one particular on Green Tree Road, grass is quite high, it's definitely an abandoned property. We're working right now, it's not about Christmas, spoke about it this afternoon, we're working to try to find get some pricing on landscapers that will keep up with these properties for us. And then what we do is we pay for it obviously, and then we,
Right, and so before we cut the grass, we have to send the homeowner a letter.
yes.
Right, how long do we wait?
So typically, we have not cut any, at least since I've been here, we have not cut any grass where there is somebody. I've not had that experience yet.
So what happens if they don't cut?
If it's just a resident living there, well, we have to go through the process of finding, sending them a letter, putting them on notice.
That's what I'm saying.
And then we take them to the magistrate.
If you go to the magistrate, we're going to go on the property, that's. So if it's an abandoned property,
They fail to respond to any and all notices that we put in the name of like public health.
so if somebody is living there, how long does that process take to go to the magistrate?
I don't know offhand. It unfortunately does take a while.
It is 9:28.
I would like to have a motion that we adjourn this meeting.